Let's talk about Trump accounts, and really a larger context of this video that I want to touch on today is how people should be thinking about saving money for their children. We get a ton of questions really every year for good reason about how someone should be thinking about investing money for their children's future, whether it's through a 529 college savings program, or it's through a UTMA, sort of minor's investment account, or just putting money aside in their own estate for future use for the kids. And now Trump accounts have entered that equation as part of the spectrum of options. I'm recording this video on July 6th, 2026, just after the July 4th holiday. The significance of that date is the legislation that created the Trump accounts mentioned July 4th, 2026 as really the date at which things would be more operational for these Trump accounts, wherein funds could be transferred from the Treasury to, the custodial or financial institution of someone's choice. Now, as I record this video today, important to note, we are not seeing the ability at Fidelity or Charles Schwab, where we have our operations set up, the ability to just simply open a Trump account for a client. My assumption is that will come soon, but there has been not a ton of guidance there from these financial institutions. So unlike going to any of these sort of financial institutions of your choice these days, the Vanguards, the Fidelities, the Merrill Lynches, the Charles Schwabs of the world, where you can just go and open an investment account, an IRA, a Roth IRA, et cetera, at the snap of your fingers, these Trump accounts are not set up yet for that accessibility. So important to note there, as we've been receiving a lot of questions around, should I invest in these? And hey, can you please help me open one? The answer on the latter one is we really can't do much until we have more guidance around how to open these accounts. Now, on that point, Trump accounts can be opened directly through the Treasury. There's a website that we'll share the link to that you can go and get more information and set up the account directly with the government. That is also an important procedure to go through if you have a child that's been born between 2025 and 2028, and the premise for which you're opening the account is to receive the $1,000 government seed contribution that has got a lot of press. And I think has been really the catalyst for a lot of the questions around, should I open a Trump account, especially if I've had a child born in the last year or so. So more information to come around how to really operate and orient with these accounts and how to utilize them within the financial institution of your choosing. On the accounts themselves, just to touch on the high level and some of the rules that govern them. The easiest way to think about a Trump account is it's really an IRA, an individual retirement account for someone who's under the age of 18. It's really sort of a starter IRA, if you will, for your children. And they follow those rules. And those rules are really the most important determinant of whether or not you should be opening them for your child. So think of an IRA as long-term money, just like for yourself. Most of our clients who be watching this video have IRAs themselves. They think of them as long-term money I'm not accessing until I'm in my 60s, 70s, 80s, potentially, to make up, my withdrawal and lifestyle needs. These accounts are going to be set up the same exact way. So if you have a child that was born in 2025, the likelihood of you seeing the benefit of them using this money during your lifetime, if you're their parent, is probably pretty small, just based on the fact that they may never touch any of these funds until they turn age 60. It's not to say that they can't touch them, but they may not want to touch them because they follow those same rules. There's a age 59 and a half penalty that is going to be assessed any withdrawals that come out of a Trump account the same way there is for an IRA or a 401k. And they follow all the other same rules. So tax deferred growth of your investment earnings, they can be a little bit differently than traditional IRAs today. The way that they are set up to be funded, aside from this $1,000 seed contribution that the government has promised for certain ages, is they can be funded with a $5,000 annual contribution until the child reaches age 18. That $5,000 cannot be expanded on by multiple parties. So grandma and grandpa can contribute $5,000 and the parents can contribute $5,000. It's $5,000 total. That is also a different contribution than a traditional IRA. If you're comparing it to a traditional IRA, those accounts have some maximum contributions at this point versus the Trump account. So Trump account is essentially a starter IRA. Again, when you think of the context of should I be opening one of these accounts? Should I be investing in one of these types of accounts? It comes back to what are your goals? Do you want to help fund your child's college education, which is a common one? Do you want to help fund your child's potential, maybe entrepreneurial dreams so that they may be able to start a business, or even just as simple as help them purchase their first house or a car, or any number of sort of life-starting investments that you may want to make in your child's future? The Trump account is not going to be an account that I would recommend you utilize for those types of goals. And again, it just comes back to the fact that At age 18, number one, the child that you've saved money into this Trump account for can take custody. They now are the owner of this account. They can do whatever they'd like with that money. Not always the most responsible age for someone to take ownership of a significant chunk of money. And further, that money, if they were to choose to withdraw it, is going to get taxed at a 10% penalty rate, just like an IRA does if they take it out before 59.5. And any investment earnings or pre-tax contributions will also be taxable at ordinary income tax rates. So if you compare that to saving to a 529, for example, for college, in which all of your withdrawals are tax-free, that's a big difference around funding the goal that you're looking to fund. Ditto with a UTMA, which is an acronym for the Uniform Transfer to Minors Act, a mouthful for what is essentially what I would call investment account for minors. It's essentially what a Trump account is for non-retirement accounts, if you will. It's an account that parents can save money to. There's no contribution limits. The child is legally going to take ownership of that account at either age 18 or 21, depending on the state. And then they can do whatever they want with that money. That's an account that there are no penalties to take money from. It does have to be, moved to the child or the beneficiary when they turn a certain age. But in theory, that money, that UTMA has a lot more flexibility over withdrawals for something like down payment on a first house or a car or starting a business. And so that's where a lot of these pros and cons, these lever pulls of what you're trying to do for your kids are really important to understand the goals, the qualitative aspects before you get into the product. Do I use a Trump account? Do I use a 529? Do I use a UTMA? Or do I just keep money in my own pocket and decide what I'm going to give them out to my kids? So that is the Trump account in a nutshell and how it fits into the parameter of different savings goals for kids. I would love to do a second video talking through the specifics around how and why you should open different types of accounts for your kids. So I'll plan to do a follow-up kind of part 2 video on that piece, but hopefully this helps answer some questions around your Trump accounts. Just to summarize, as of July 6th, 2026, there is no clicking a button on Fidelity.com or CharlesSchwab.com to start a Trump account. I'm hopeful that that will be coming soon. And these accounts are essentially retirement accounts for your children that are under the age of 18. And I guess the final point I would make on that, again, just to repeat and summarize, is if you're going to be saving money to accounts for your kids and you're choosing to save money to a Trump account for your child, that essentially is money for their retirement. It is not money for their college. It is not money for their, first business or their first house or any life goals or milestones that you might think of between their ages of 18 and 60. That's really not how the Trump account is designed to work. One other item I should have mentioned before that is important: the investment options for a Trump account are limited. What it means, as I understand it from the rules, is 90% of the investments within a Trump account must be invested in a US-based stock market, or 90% of the underlying holdings must be US companies. So it's going to be index funds like the S&P 500 or maybe the Russell 1000 or any number of indices that track predominantly US domiciled companies. That is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does reduce your investment flexibility. And as you know, if you've been a client of Amplius for a long time, we preach diversification. You don't necessarily need to have all of your investments in equities or bonds. You may need a mix. You may not want to have all of your investments just in the US stock market. You may want to have investments overseas in international stock markets or various smaller companies in the US than just the S&P 500. That's an important one as well. And we should get, again, more clarity on how exactly those investments are going to work within Trump accounts. But it is an important distinction and something to consider as well. And that if you're going to have a Trump account and it's really set up for your kids' long-term future, you're going to be limited to the S&P 500 more or less as an investment choice, which may or may not fit your goals.